The Galactic Empire was huge, powerful, and feared by everyone across the galaxy. For centuries, they had crushed planets and taken control of star systems. No one had ever dared to challenge them. Their soldiers were strong, their ships were fast, and their technology was unmatched. They ruled with an iron fist, and everyone obeyed. One day, the Empire's leaders gathered in a massive meeting room aboard their flagship, a ship so big it could hold thousands of soldiers. The Emperor, a tall, stern figure, stood in front of his commanders. He looked down at the star maps spread across the table. His face was cold, but his eyes burned with excitement. "It's time," the Emperor said, his voice deep and full of power. "We've heard rumors of a small planet hidden in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. They call it Earth. I want that planet, and I want it now." The generals around him nodded. Earth was far away, and no one had heard much about it. It was a small, insignificant planet compared to the vast empire. The generals didn't think much of it. The idea of a planet that could resist the empire was laughable. "We will send a fleet," the emperor continued. "A huge fleet to wipe out their defenses and claim Earth. No one can stand against us." The generals agreed. They had done this 1,000 times before. They knew how to crush planets. They didn't need to worry about Earth. The Empire's fleet was unmatched, and no one could defeat them. Back on Earth, people were living their everyday lives. They had no idea what was coming. The planet was a peaceful one, full of cities, farms, and beautiful landscapes. It was home to billions of people who went about their work without knowing the dangers lurking in the stars above. Earth's leaders, the humans, were just as unaware. They had heard of the Empire, but they never imagined that the Empire would come for them. They didn't have huge fleets or massive armies like the Empire. They didn't even know how to fight in the way the galaxy's most powerful species did. But what the Empire didn't know was that Earth had something far stronger than any fleet of ships. The Empire launched its first attack without warning. Ships, massive and deadly, appeared in Earth's skies. The Empire's soldiers readied themselves for an easy battle. They saw Earth's small cities and weak defenses. They saw humans going about their lives, not ready for war. The Empire's fleet was led by the general, a ruthless commander with a reputation for never losing. His ship was the largest, the most powerful in the fleet. He smiled as his fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. "Easy," he muttered. "This will be over before lunch." The first attacks came quickly. The Empire's ships fired lasers, bombarding Earth's cities. Buildings crumbled. People screamed. The military was caught off guard, and they could do little to stop the Empire's invasion. It was chaos. But just as the general's fleet celebrated their easy victory, something strange began to happen. The people of Earth, despite their fear, didn't give up. They didn't run. Instead, they fought back in ways that no one expected. A small group of human warships, old but strong, launched from Earth's military bases. They were nothing compared to the Empire's fleet in size, but they were fast, and they fought with a kind of desperation that the Empire didn't understand. The Empire's fleet laughed. These ships were no match for them. But the humans weren't fighting for glory or fame. They were fighting to survive. And that made all the difference. The Empire's ships fired lasers and missiles, but the human warships dodged and weaved through the attacks. The general's fleet couldn't keep up. The human ships used strange tactics, things the Empire had never seen before. They would attack in waves, then retreat, only to strike again from an unexpected angle. The general's forces were confused. At first, the Empire thought it was just a lucky hit. But as the battle continued, the human ships kept coming. And each time they hit, they left a mark. The general's fleet was taking damage, and they couldn't understand why. "What is this?" the general growled. "How are they fighting like this?" He ordered his fleet to increase firepower, but the humans kept fighting. They used everything they had, old technologies, new tactics, and a fierce will to protect their home. And slowly, the Empire's confidence began to crack. The war had only just begun, but already the humans were showing that they were not the weak, helpless species the Empire had thought them to be. Earth might be small, but it was full of surprises, and the Empire had made a terrible mistake in underestimating it. The first day of battle ended with both sides standing at a crossroads. The Empire had dealt a heavy blow to Earth, but they hadn't won. Not yet. And Earth's soldiers were not ready to give up. The general looked at the damage, the fire still burning across the cities, and for the first time, he felt a twinge of doubt. Maybe Earth wouldn't be as easy to conquer as they thought. The Galactic Empire had always been the strongest force in the galaxy. Their ships were the fastest, their weapons the deadliest, and their armies the most powerful. They conquered planets with ease, and no one had ever dared to fight back. So when the Empire attacked Earth, they expected the same outcome, an easy win. They were sure that humanity wouldn't stand a chance. But they were wrong. After the first battle, the Empire's commanders were still confident. Their fleet had caused heavy damage to Earth, and they believed the humans would surrender soon. The general, the commander leading the Empire's forces, smiled as he watched Earth's cities burn from the safety of his flagship. "It's over," he said to his officers. "They've shown their weakness. They will fall." The general thought that Earth was just like every other planet they had conquered. A small, weak world with no chance against the might of the Empire. But Earth wasn't like the others. The people of Earth had something that the Empire didn't understand. Something powerful. Back on Earth, the people were far from giving up. Despite the destruction, despite the fear, they were fighting back. And they weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their home, for their families, for everything they held dear. The human military, though small in comparison to the Empire's vast forces, was far more organized than the Empire had realized. They had faced wars and struggles throughout history, and they had learned how to adapt to any enemy. Earth's soldiers weren't just trained in the latest weapons, they were trained in survival. They knew how to fight under pressure, how to think on their feet, and most importantly, how to outsmart an enemy. The Empire had underestimated this. The humans weren't giving up. They were fighting back in ways that the Empire had never expected. Earth's military began using unconventional tactics, things the Empire had never seen before. Old war strategies were combined with advanced technology, creating a new kind of fighting force. The human soldiers weren't afraid to do whatever it took to win. And as the battles raged on, the general's confidence began to crack. "They can't keep this up," the general said to his officers. "They're just lucky." But the luck was running out. Earth's ships, though fewer in number, were proving to be far more difficult to destroy than the Empire had first thought. The human warships darted through the Empire's attacks, using the terrain and atmosphere to their advantage. The Empire's weapons, though powerful, couldn't hit their targets fast enough. One particular battle stood out. The Empire sent a fleet of battle cruisers to destroy a human base hidden in a mountain range. The base was small, almost invisible to the Empire's sensors, but the humans had a surprise waiting for them. As the Empire's fleet entered the atmosphere, they were ambushed by human ships flying at incredible speeds, using the mountains as cover. The Empire's cruisers fired lasers, but the human ships dodged and counterattacked. The general's fleet was caught off guard, unable to predict the human tactics. What should have been an easy victory turned into a bloody battle. Earth's forces hit the Empire hard, forcing the fleet to retreat. "Impossible," the general muttered. They're outsmarting us." The Empire's pride was wounded. Their commanders couldn't believe it. How could these humans, with their primitive technology, be fighting so well? The humans didn't have the Empire's advanced ships or weapons, but they had something far more dangerous: their will to survive. Back at the Empire's command center, the Emperor watched the reports. He wasn't worried, yet. "It's just a minor setback," he said, waving his hand. "We'll send a larger fleet and crush them. They're nothing." But the Emperor had made the same mistake as the general. He had underestimated the humans. The people of Earth were learning. They were adapting. And they were starting to fight smarter, not harder. The Empire didn't realize that humans could take a hit and keep coming back stronger. Every time they were knocked down, they got back up. Every time they were pushed to the edge, they found a way to fight harder. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for their future, and Earth's soldiers were willing to do anything to protect it. In the heart of the Empire's flagship, the general was pacing nervously. They keep coming. How are they doing this? His officers had no answer. They had never fought an enemy like this. No one had. The humans were relentless, using everything they had, no matter how old or outdated. It didn't matter if their ships were slower or their weapons less powerful. They were using their brains, their courage, and their sheer determination to fight back. The general's pride was shattered. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Earth wasn't going to fall easily. In fact, it might just be the hardest challenge the Empire had ever faced. As the general looked out over the stars, a cold realization settled in. This war was far from over. And maybe, just maybe, the humans weren't as weak as they had thought. The battle had been fierce, but the Empire still believed it was in control. Their fleets had taken some damage, but they were powerful. The Empire's generals believed the humans would crumble under pressure. They thought Earth's resources were limited, and its people would eventually surrender. But something strange was happening, something the Empire didn't expect. It was late in the afternoon when the first shock hit. The Empire's massive battle fleet was about to launch another strike at Earth's main military base. The plan was simple: wipe out the remaining human defenses and take control of the planet. The general, sitting on his flagship, reviewed the strategy with his officers. "We will crush them," he said, his voice full of confidence. "This time, there will be no escape." But as the fleet moved closer to Earth, the unexpected happened. A small, unassuming fleet of human warships appeared on the Empire's radar. The ships were old, nothing special, just a few relics from Earth's past. The general laughed. "These old ships," he scoffed. "They're no match for our fleet. Just a distraction. We'll deal with them later." But as the Empire's fleet moved in for the kill, the general's smile quickly faded. The human ships, despite being slow and outdated, weren't retreating. Instead, they were charging straight at the Empire's most advanced warships. "Get ready to engage them," the general ordered. His officers followed his command, prepared for an easy battle. But what they didn't know was that the human ships had a trick up their sleeves, something the Empire had never seen before. The human ships fired their weapons, but it wasn't the usual attack. Instead of laser blasts, they unleashed something far more dangerous: high-powered electromagnetic pulses, EMPs. These EMPs hit the Empire's ships with full force, knocking out their shields and causing chaos. The general's officers looked at the screens in disbelief. "What is happening?" one of them asked, panic in his voice. "Our systems are failing. The shields are down." The human ships didn't stop. They continued to fire EMPs, sending the Empire's most advanced warships into a state of chaos. The once proud fleet of the Empire was now defenseless. The Empire's ships were left vulnerable to the surprise attack. The general watched as his fleet began to fall apart. "No, how are they doing this?" he shouted, slamming his fist on the control panel. "Their technology shouldn't work on our ships." But the humans didn't need the most advanced technology. They had used their brains, not just their weapons. They had studied the Empire's weaknesses and figured out how to exploit them. The general had underestimated them once again. As the human ships continued their relentless attack, more of the Empire's battle cruisers were taken out. The fleet was losing control, and the once dominant Empire was now scrambling to regain its footing. "What are they using?" the general demanded. "How could they know about our technology?" It was then that he realized something even more shocking. The human ships were powered by old Earth technology, systems the Empire had thought were obsolete. The humans had figured out how to reverse engineer their own technology, and they had combined it with their resourcefulness to create a weapon the Empire couldn't defend against. The general's pride was shattered. He had never imagined that such a small, insignificant planet could come up with something like this. Earth's people weren't just fighting. They were adapting. They were learning. And they were far more resourceful than the Empire had given them credit for. The Empire's fleet, now crippled by the EMP attacks, was forced to retreat. The humans, though outnumbered and outgunned, had struck a decisive blow. They had made the first real dent in the Empire's powerful forces. As the human fleet watched the Empire's ships retreat, a sense of victory spread through their ranks. The humans had done the impossible. They had made the Empire retreat. But they knew it wasn't over. This was only the beginning. The Empire would return, and the fight would continue. But the humans had proven something important. They weren't going to give up without a fight. The general, now furious, returned to his flagship. He stood in front of his officers, seething with anger. "Prepare the fleet for another attack," he said, his voice cold. "We'll show them that they are nothing." But deep down, he knew this wouldn't be as easy as the Empire had thought. The humans had shown they were not weak. They were strong, clever, and dangerous. And that realization shook the general to his core. The Empire had underestimated Earth once, and now it had made the mistake of doing it again. After the shock of the EMP attack, the general knew the Empire could not take the humans lightly. What they had thought were just primitive beings fighting to survive had now shown themselves to be something much more. The Empire needed to adapt, but they didn't know how. The humans had revealed a terrifying truth. Their strength wasn't just in their weapons. It was in their spirit. After the battle, as the Empire regrouped, the humans did something no one had expected. They didn't just rebuild their forces. They strengthened them. The damage from the attack had been significant, but Earth's people weren't just mending their defenses. They were improving them. The general watched as Earth's military began to roll out new weapons, more powerful than ever before. These weren't just simple upgrades. They were innovations, things the Empire had never seen. The humans had started designing advanced war machines that looked like nothing the Empire had ever imagined. Old technologies combined with new ideas created something entirely unique. The general tried to remain confident, but his officers could see the worry in his eyes. "They keep surprising us," one of the officers said. "We've never faced anything like this before." The general gritted his teeth. "We will crush them," he said. "This time, we'll be ready." But the Empire's readiness would not be enough. The humans had more than just technology on their side. They had a will to fight that was stronger than anything the Empire had ever encountered. Earth's people were united like never before. The attacks, the destruction, the loss of lives, none of it had broken their spirit. If anything, it had made them stronger. They fought not just for survival, but for their homes, their families, and their future. A human commander, General Adams, stood before his team, rallying them for the next mission. "We've lost a lot," he said, his voice steady and strong. "But we haven't lost hope. We won't stop until the Empire knows that we will never give up. This is our home, and we'll protect it at all costs." The soldiers cheered, a united roar of determination rising from the group. Earth's people were ready to fight again. They had lost battles, but they had not lost the war. And in the heart of every human soldier burned an undeniable truth. They were stronger than the Empire had ever realized. The general, watching from his command ship, saw what was happening. The humans were adapting faster than he could. They were learning, and they were not afraid. Their resolve was unlike anything the Empire had seen before. He had thought he understood them, but now he realized how wrong he was. Humans didn't just fight for victory. They fought for something deeper. They fought for what mattered. Then the humans launched their next attack. This time, it was different. They weren't just using their usual tactics. They had found a way to turn the tables. Earth's forces had developed a new strategy, one that would hit the Empire where it hurt the most: their supply lines. The Empire's fleets rely on a constant flow of resources from their home planets, and the humans knew that cutting off that flow would be devastating. The human ships moved quickly, appearing out of nowhere, striking at Empire supply stations and depots, then vanishing before the Empire could react. It was a new kind of warfare, one the Empire had never prepared for. They had the power, the numbers, and the technology, but they had never faced an enemy that could fight with such cleverness and speed. "We can't keep up with this," one of the Empire's officers said, staring at the data. "They're everywhere." The general stood silent, watching as his once mighty fleet was worn down, piece by piece. Every attack by the humans was a reminder that the Empire's strength wasn't enough to break the spirit of Earth's people. Meanwhile, the human soldiers pushed forward with a new kind of strength. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. Every human, from the highest-ranking generals to the youngest soldiers, believed that they could defeat the Empire. And that belief gave them power, the kind of power the Empire had never encountered before. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, Earth's people stood firm. They had proven that they could take a hit and keep fighting. They had proven that their strength came not from their weapons, but from their heart. And the more the Empire tried to break them, the stronger they became. On the battlefield, the Empire's ships fell one by one. The human war machines, though smaller, were relentless. They fought with everything they had, using every advantage, every tactic, and every ounce of strength. And when the battle was over, the humans didn't just survive. They thrived. The general, now desperate, realized that the humans weren't just fighting a war. They were changing the game. They had become a force the Empire couldn't ignore. Their strength was not in their numbers, nor in their technology alone. It was in their ability to keep pushing forward, no matter the cost. The humans had shown the Empire one simple truth: you can never break a people who refuse to give up. The Empire was in trouble. They had underestimated Earth from the start, but now they were facing something they hadn't expected: a force more powerful than their weapons, more dangerous than any fleet they had ever built. The humans had become an unstoppable wave, and the Empire couldn't stop them. But there was still one thing the general held on to: a secret weapon that would turn the tide. In the deepest part of the Empire's war room, the general paced back and forth. His officers watched him nervously, knowing the time was running out. Earth had proven to be more resilient than they thought. The Empire had lost battles, resources, and morale. Yet there was still one more trick up their sleeve, something that could destroy the humans once and for all. The general finally stopped pacing and turned to his officers. "We have one last option," he said, his voice low. "A weapon unlike anything we've used before. We've kept it hidden for this very moment." His officers exchanged confused glances. "A weapon? We've already used everything we have." One of them said, "What else is there?" The general smiled darkly. "Something far more dangerous. A weapon that could annihilate Earth's cities and wipe out their fleets in one move." The officers were silent. They had heard rumors about the Empire's hidden weapon, but no one had ever seen it in action. It was said to be a weapon of mass destruction, capable of causing chaos and devastation on a scale that no one could imagine. Now, it was the only option left. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Adams and his soldiers were preparing for another battle. The humans had fought hard and lost many lives, but they were not giving up. They knew the Empire would not stop until they had won. And so, Earth's forces were ready for whatever came next. But no one knew what was coming. The Empire had unleashed their hidden weapon. The weapon was launched from a secret base on the Empire's home planet, far beyond Earth's reach. The device was a massive bomb, unlike any seen before. It was designed to release a devastating energy wave that would wipe out entire cities, reducing everything to dust. It was the Empire's last hope to crush the humans once and for all. As the weapon traveled through space, the humans had no idea what was coming. They had grown stronger with each battle, and their military was on high alert, ready to defend against any attack. But this was different. The weapon moved too fast for them to react, and it would be too late before they could stop it. Back on Earth, the humans noticed a strange anomaly in their radar. Something was moving toward them at incredible speed, but it didn't match anything they had ever seen. General Adams gathered his officers. "What is it?" he asked. One of the officers scanned the data. "It's coming from the Empire's home planet. It's massive, and it's heading straight for Earth." The general's face grew grim. "How long until it reaches us?" "Hours, at most." The humans knew they had little time to stop it. They had to find a way to counter this hidden weapon before it was too late. The weapon was not just a threat. It was an extinction-level disaster. If it hit Earth, everything would be lost. General Adams immediately called a meeting with Earth's best engineers and scientists. "We have one chance to stop this weapon," he said. "We need to find a way to neutralize it before it lands. If we fail, this war is over." The scientists worked day and night, analyzing the data and coming up with a plan. They had no idea what the weapon would do, but they knew it had to be stopped. After hours of research, they discovered that the weapon's power source could be disrupted. It was a long shot, but if they could target its energy core, they might be able to shut it down before it could release its destructive power. The humans quickly prepared their best fighters and warships for the mission. They knew it was a risky move, but they had no other choice. The Empire had pushed them to this point, and now it was time to fight back with everything they had. As the weapon drew closer to Earth, the human ships launched into space. They moved swiftly, hoping to reach the weapon before it could land. Time was running out. The weapon was almost there. The humans were about to face their biggest challenge yet. The battle for Earth's survival had reached its peak. The Empire's hidden weapon was closing in, but the humans weren't giving up. They had fought through every challenge, every obstacle, and now they had one last chance to save their home. The outcome of this battle would decide the fate of the entire planet. The humans had shown their power, their resilience, and their courage, but this final test would push them to their limits. Could they stop the weapon in time? Or would the Empire's final move destroy everything they had fought for? The tension was thick in the air. The Empire had just deployed their hidden weapon, a weapon that could wipe out all of Earth in a single blow. But the humans had not given up. They fought, worked, and used every bit of their strength to stop it. The Empire had thought they had already won, but they had underestimated one thing: the heart of a human soldier. As Earth's best engineers worked tirelessly to disable the weapon, General Adams stood in the command center, watching the countdown. Every second felt like an eternity. The hidden weapon was coming closer to Earth, and they were running out of time. If they failed now, everything would be lost. But just as all hope seemed to fade, the impossible happened. The weapon, a massive energy-filled bomb, had stopped. The energy readings that once indicated an unstoppable power slowly began to vanish. The humans had done it. They had found a way to disable the Empire's most powerful weapon. General Adams let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "It's working," he whispered. On the Empire's side, the general felt a sudden wave of panic. He had not expected this. The humans were supposed to be weak, unprepared, and easy to defeat. But instead, they had turned the tables on him once again. His secret weapon, the one he had placed all his hopes in, was failing. In that moment, he realized just how wrong he had been about the humans. "They've stopped it," one of his officers shouted, unable to hide the panic in his voice. The general clenched his fists, his face a mask of anger and disbelief. How did they do it? He growled. He had placed his faith in the weapon, and now it had failed. The Empire's plan was falling apart before his eyes. Back on Earth, General Adams couldn't believe it. "We've done it. We've stopped it," he shouted to his team. The soldiers around him cheered. Their spirits lifted in that moment of victory. But even though they had won this battle, they knew the war was far from over. The Empire would not give up easily. The general turned to his communications officer. "Send word to all units. The Empire is weakening. We need to strike now, before they can recover." The humans had turned the tide, but the Empire was far from finished. They had one last chance to reclaim control. But this time, things were different. The humans were no longer just fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. And that was a force the Empire couldn't stop. As the humans rallied their forces, the Empire began to panic. They had lost their secret weapon, their advantage, and now their fleets were being pushed back by Earth's unstoppable advance. The human soldiers fought harder, faster, and smarter than the Empire had ever expected. The Empire's once mighty fleet began to fall back, retreating from Earth's relentless assault. It was a slow retreat at first, but soon it became clear that they could no longer hold their ground. The humans had pushed them to the brink of defeat. "Fall back," the general ordered, his voice cold. "We need to regroup." But it was too late. The Empire had underestimated the humans for the last time. Earth's soldiers were closing in, and the Empire had no more tricks to play. They had tried to break the human spirit, but now it was the Empire that was breaking. The Empire's retreat became a full withdrawal as Earth's forces continued to advance. They had already taken control of several key strategic locations, and the Empire knew they could not afford to lose any more ground. The humans had won. The tide had turned in their favor. And now, the Empire was on the run. General Adams stood at the front of his troops, leading them forward as they pushed the Empire's forces back further and further. The humans fought with everything they had, knowing that this moment was their chance to end the war once and for all. The general's eyes burned with determination. He knew that the fight wasn't over, but now the Empire was the one on the defensive. Earth's forces were stronger than ever, and they were not about to stop. The battle was shifting in their favor, and every victory brought them closer to ending the Empire's reign. The Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was falling back in defeat. Their secret weapon had failed. Their fleets were retreating. Their morale was shattered. They had thought they could crush the humans, but now the humans were turning the tables on them. "We will return," the general muttered to himself. "But for now, we fight on." And so the humans pressed forward, relentless and determined. The Empire had underestimated them for the last time. Now, Earth's soldiers were making sure the Empire would never forget the power of a people who would never give up. The final battle was raging. Earth's forces had pushed the Empire's fleets back, and now they were on the verge of winning. The Empire had tried everything to stop the humans, but each time they were met with the same result: failure. The humans, with their courage, resilience, and sheer will to survive, had shown that nothing could defeat them. General Adams stood at the front of his troops, his eyes scanning the horizon. The Empire's forces were retreating, and victory was within reach. His heart pounded in his chest, but he stayed focused. The fight wasn't over yet, but the Empire's collapse was now inevitable. "They're pulling back," one of his officers said, a smile tugging at his lips. "We've almost won." General Adams nodded. "Don't get too confident. They could have a surprise left." The humans had been through too much to make any assumptions now. The Empire had always been full of tricks, and it wouldn't be surprising if they had one last weapon waiting. But deep down, the general felt it. The Empire's strength was gone. The humans had fought too hard, and now the enemy's forces were broken. The Empire, once so mighty, was falling apart. The fleets that had been so powerful just days ago were now crumbling. The last remaining Empire ships were no match for Earth's combined forces. The humans had successfully neutralized their secret weapon, and now they were taking back what was theirs. Back in the Empire's war room, the general could barely keep his composure. His officers were scrambling to find a way to stop the human advance, but it was too late. The Empire had nothing left. The weapon that had been their last hope had been destroyed. The fleets they had sent to crush Earth were now retreating, unable to hold their ground. "They are unstoppable," one officer muttered in disbelief. "We can't win." The general slammed his fist on the table. "We've lost." In that moment, the general knew the war was over. The Empire could no longer hope for a victory. They had underestimated the humans every step of the way. The humans had fought with everything they had, and now they were claiming their victory. General Adams watched as Earth's forces closed in on the Empire's last stronghold. The enemy's ships were fleeing in all directions, desperate to escape the inevitable. The human fleet surged forward, ready to finish the job. The time for victory was here. "Prepare for the final strike," General Adams said, his voice firm and steady. "We've won this war." The human forces launched their final offensive. It was a massive, coordinated attack designed to destroy the last remnants of the Empire's military. With each ship that fell, with each battle they won, the humans could feel the weight of victory settling in. They had faced the most powerful force in the galaxy, and now they were watching it crumble before their eyes. The Empire's command center was silent as the last of their ships were destroyed. The once proud forces of the Empire were now scattered and defeated. There was no hope left for them. On Earth, celebrations erupted. People cheered, sang, and danced in the streets. The war had ended. The humans had won. They had faced the might of the Empire, fought through impossible odds, and emerged victorious. It was a triumph not just of strength, but of spirit. General Adams stood with his officers, watching the celebration from his command center. It was a moment of victory, a moment that would go down in history. The humans had proven to the galaxy that they could stand up to any challenge, no matter how overwhelming. And now, Earth was free. The Empire, which had once threatened to conquer Earth and erase humanity from existence, was defeated. The humans had shown that they would not be so easily crushed. They had won, not just because they had better weapons or stronger armies, but because they had never given up. As General Adams watched the fireworks light up the night sky, he knew that this victory would be remembered for generations to come. The Empire would never forget the day they learned the true power of humans. The humans had won the war, but more than that, they had shown the galaxy the strength of their spirit. They had fought for their survival, and now they would rebuild. Earth was safe, and the galaxy would forever know one thing: never underestimate humanity.